With the Grand Tours done and dusted for another year, it's time to refocus our attention on the big one-day races, the biggest of which comes this weekend at the UCI World Road Race Championships.
Which takes place in Wollongong, just south of Sydney in Australia. It's the first time Australia has hosted the World Championships since 2010, albeit 1,000 kilometres away in Geelong. Now, that year, Tor Hushovd and Giorgio Bronzini took the Rainbow Band back to Norway and Italy, respectively.
This year, Norway have already won themselves 2 gold medals in the time trials. Tobias Foss caused a major upset in the men's elite race, while Søren Varenskjold won the under-23 title. Ellen van Dijk won the elite women's, whilst there were 2 British winners in the junior races, with Joshua Tarling taking the men's and Zoe Bagstedt winning the women's by a long, long way.
But our focus today is going to be on the Women's and Men's Elite Road Race Championships, which takes place on Saturday and Sunday, respectively. We'll be going through the route in detail and looking at the top contenders for each race.
Before we get onto all of that though, our usual plug for our live coverage on GCN+. So if you're in Europe, excluding Denmark, Norway, Sweden and Italy, you'll be able to watch every single kilometre of all those road races, and we'll be having post-race breakaway shows too. Guests are Danny Rowe, Danny Christmas, Adam Blythe and EF Education Sports Director Tom Southern, who will join Ola Chenoy in the studio here.
Yeah, and given the time differences, you will have an early start in Europe if you want to watch from the beginning. So the women's race starts from 3:15 UK time, so 4:15 European time, whilst the men's event kicks off at just past 1 a.m. UK time on Sunday morning and 2 a.m. European time.
Plus, we will have the junior under-23 men's in the early hours of Friday morning and the junior women's ahead of the elite race on Saturday. I'm going to be setting my alarm for those races, but if you don't want to change your body clock, you'll be able to watch them all on demand after the events.
Excellent news. Right, on to the course then. There has been much speculation about whether or not a sprinter has a chance of surviving to the finish. In Geelong in 2010, both races were won by sprinters, but this course is hillier.
Although perhaps not quite as much more hillier as many have been saying it is. Let's start with the men. So over the 267 kilometre course, there's 3,965 metres of climbing, a little over 1,000 metres more than the 263 kilometre race in Geelong. So yes, 30% more climbing, but that still falls short of the likes of Liège-Bastogne-Liège and Ile-Lombardia.
Yeah, both of which are shorter in distance as well. Now, the men's and the women's races both start in Helensburgh and then head southwestwards down the coast towards Wollongong. The big difference between the elite events versus the age category events is the Mount Kira Loop. So they start this after around 27 k's of racing, and it's the biggest climb of the day.
It is 8.7 k's at 5% average gradient, so it rises about 450 metres in altitude. So not insignificant, but normally you would say coming so early in the races, it would be unlikely to have a large impact on them. However, this is 2022 and riders seem unafraid to go hard early, just as we saw last year in 2021, in fact, in Belgium for the championships. Now, for the teams who want to make this race really hard, you've got to say that's the perfect opportunity to make it so.
Yeah. That would be hard going that early, wouldn't it? Crikey. From the peak of that climb, they'll descend back down and around to Wollongong, where the men will then tackle 12 laps of a 17.1k loop, and the women will tackle 6. The local laps feature 2 short, sharp climbs, Mount Ousley, and then there's a very short descent before the hardest climb of the lap, Mount Pleasant.
Which is 1.1 kilometres at 7.7%, with a maximum of 14. Now, it might not sound that tough, but it's the repetition of that climb and the smaller one that comes before it that will wear down the riders and eventually, we assume, create those final selections.
Yeah, the other thing that will wear the riders down is the technical nature of the circuit. It's something that we've seen in the time trials. There are just under 30 corners on each lap, which will really add to the fatigue, won't it?
Yes, it will. The finale, though, is relatively flat, with a right-hand turn to be negotiated within the final kilometre. So I would say it's a classic World Championship circuit, this one, in which climbers, puncheurs, and even 1 or 2 of the stronger sprinters, if the race is ridden in a certain way, will all have a chance. I absolutely love this type of course where it's open to so many people.
I do too. It's what makes the world so special, doesn't it? Given that it suits so many riders, we could be here for a while, couldn't we, going through the favourites for each race. We'll start with the men's, and France, nation of 2-time defending champion Julien Alaphilippe.
It's been a season to forget for him,
yes.
hasn't it, in the rainbow bands for the second time. He had a bad crash at Strade Bianche. I think he was ill for Sanremo. He crashed at Brabantse Pijl. He crashed even harder at Liège-Bastogne-Liège. He then won his second race back after recovery at the Tour de Wallonie, got COVID the day after, so had to leave the race, then went to the Vuelta and crashed out of that race with a dislocated shoulder.
Yeah, not ideal preparation, no. I think we can all agree on that. But it must be said that Alaphilippe is the freshest rider on the start line, isn't he? He's had just 41 days of racing this season, but given that he got through 10 days of La Vuelta before he crashed out, if he's fully healthy, I think his form could be pretty good.
I would agree with that, actually. I mean, it sounded like he was back on the home trainer pretty quickly after his crash at La Vuelta, and there's no doubt, like you said, he will be fresher than most people and definitely fresher than anybody who finished La Vuelta. France have also got a really strong team at the race. Laporte, who's been brilliant all year, Madouas, Pacher and Kuznetsov, who will all love the punchy climbs on this course. Romain Bardet, Pavel Sivakov, riding his first World Championships in French colours. Then if you add in Cavagna and Sénéchal, I would say that's arguably the strongest team on the start line on Sunday.
Yeah, and in part because it's the biggest team on the start line,
True.
Isn't it? They get to field 9 riders instead of 8 because they're the defending champions. Now, next up, we've got to talk about the home nation, haven't we? Australia.
We have, yes. And the big news a few weeks back was that Caleb Ewan was not selected by Australia, despite having stated that this championship was one of his big aims for this year.
Yeah, that's a big call to make, isn't it? But it is a tough course, and he hadn't, up to that point, had a great season, had he really? Instead, Michael Matthews will lead them with O'Connor, Clark, Schultz, Plapp, Hindley, Hausler and Durbridge there. Strong, but not strong as France.
No, not quite, but that is a really strong team, isn't it? And Matthews, I think, does have a decent chance because he is the clear leader of that team and a leader that has had a very good year. He won that incredibly tough stage at the Tour de France, and he also finished second at the recent Grand Prix Quebec. He's got a silver and a bronze medal to his name already at the Elite World Championships in the past, and I would love to see him take the gold medal and the rainbow jersey in front of that home crowd.
I think Ewan might have had a better chance. What do you think?
No, I think it was too hard for Ewan, although I think they should have given him his chance to be on the start line.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll wait and find out, won't we? What about Belgium then? So Wout van Aert skipped the time trial this year in order to concentrate on the road. There's no doubt he has got what it takes to win, but he often falls short in the really big one-day races. I was looking back at his results, and of the 16 one-day races he's done in the highest level, so Monuments, World Champs or Olympics, he's only won 1.
Is it really? 1 out of 16?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess he's won quite a lot of the semi-classics, hasn't he? But only one of the Monuments, Sanremo. I would have expected a higher hit rate from him because he wins so much, doesn't he?
Well, that's it, yeah.
Anyway, his backup at the race will be Lampart, Van Hooijdonk, Sturven, De Wolf, Seri and Quinten Hermans. The big question mark, though, is whether he'll have support from Remco Evenepoel or if Evenepoel will get to ride his own race.
Well, from a selfish point of view, I do hope that Evenepoel gets to ride his own race, and attacking Evenepoel makes for an exciting day to watch. And I'd have thought that Evenepoel riding his own race would also benefit Van Aert, wouldn't it? Evenepoel likes to attack early. He's hard to catch, so that could be a large portion of the race in which Van Aert doesn't have to do any work, nor his team. He can just sit on and wait.
Yeah, it is very true. He doesn't often seem to be able to sit in much, does he? He overdoes it when he's in a small group thinking that he's got the win in the bag. Anyway, it's been 10 years since a Belgian won the Men's World Road Race Championships, which is the longest drought that country's ever had. So maybe this is their year.
Well, maybe. It's been 37 years, can you believe, since the Dutch won it. So maybe it's the year for Mathieu van der Poel. It certainly looks like a course that has been made for him with the repeated short, sharp climbs. And he seems to have got over whatever it was that saw him perform below expectations at the Tour de France. He's won his last 3 races in a row, hasn't he?
He has, yeah. They're fairly small races, got to be said. But you've still got to win them, hasn't he? So he's clearly on decent form. Eenkorn, Mollema, Ola, Poels, Maas and Van der Hoorn are there to support him. Whilst you'd imagine Van Baarle will be following the moves before the really big moves go. So he's a very good one-day racer, of course, as well.
That's right, yeah. The biggest disappointment for the Netherlands is that they're still in that horrendous non-orange kit that they had at the Europeans. What is going on there?
I don't know. I thought they'd ditch it after all the feedback they got after the Europeans, but it seems they've stuck with it for the time being. Italy come with an 8-man squad that has a number of potential medalists without a standout favourite. Trentin, Bettiol and Baggioli are all solid one-day races, but but it would be a bit of an upset, I'd say, if any of them took back the rainbow jersey.
Yeah, Denmark, another team that have qualified a full 8-man squad, but like Italy, they will start as outsiders. They've got Magnus Kort, Mikael Honoré and Jakob Fuglsang as the standout names from that 8. But looking at their squad, I think they'll be able to ride without too much pressure or responsibility. They can just follow the stronger nations and kind of see what comes of it.
Yeah, I'd say the same. I'd also say the same applies actually for the British team, because they've got the likes of Hayter, Stewart, Wright, Tullett, Swift and Turner, all strong young riders with decent results this year, and they've got the experience of Ben Swift and Luke Rowe to guide them through it. Again, no standout favourites for the gold medal there, but if they play their numbers well, they could come home with a big result.
They could indeed. Spain are the last of the nations that have qualified 8. But it doesn't look like the force it so often has been in the world. They've got Garcia Cortina and Marc Soler, who look to be their best bets.
Yeah, it's definitely not the force it used to be, is it?
No.
That said, though, Valverde had to stay at home to try and pick up UCI points from Movistar.
That's
so there you
cruel,
go.
isn't it?
Now, of the smaller squads, we've got to start with Eritrea. Biniam Girmay will start as one of the big favourites of this race, given the season that he's had so far. And with Kudus, Tesfatsion and Gebrek Zabrier amongst his teammates, he'll have some decent backup too.
Wouldn't it be something if Girmay
It
won?
would be, yeah.
Oh, I would love to see that.
All right, ahead of him in the bookmakers' odds, though, is Tadej Pogačar of Slovenia. He bounced back from the disappointment of losing the Tour de France for the very first time in July by out-sprinting Van Aert recently, amongst other riders, to win the Grand Prix Montreal in Canada.
He does love a one-day race, doesn't he?
He really loves it, yeah.
Which makes me love Pogačar even more.
Yeah.
He's won more monuments than Wout van Aert.
Yes,
Well,
that's very true.
Yeah, I mean, because Wout van Aert, we just said, hasn't won very much.
No, he's won one, and Pogačar's won 2 monuments already. Better
isn't it?
strike rate.
That's it, yeah. Roglic is not racing for Slovenia this year, and nor is Matej Mohoric either. So you'd imagine Pogačar is going to be sole leader with Tratnik, Polanc and Novak, for support.
The US have got Nielsen Paulis, who many of you will remember had a really impressive ride in Leuven in Belgium at last year's World Championships. They've also got Magnus Sheffield, who won Brabant's Appeal back in April. And if he won, he'd surely be the youngest ever world champion on the road, wouldn't he? He's only just turned 20.
That's a question. Where's Killian Kelly when you need him?
Well, exactly. Yes.
Right, Armstrong was 20, wasn't he? Or was he 21?
21, I think.
Anyway, we'll find out. Sergio Higuita, he looks to be the best bet for Colombia. Although Nairo Quintana is racing for the first time since that positive test for tramadol. He's not noted for his one-day prowess, though, is he?
No, and he's not had the best preparation mentally, I wouldn't have thought.
No.
Alexander Kristoff will lead the Norwegian team. Loves a hard race, as we all know, but I think this might be just a little bit too hard for him. Andreas Leknesund could be a surprise performer for Norway, and given the form of Tobias Foss, when he won the time trial, he should be right up there as well, you'd have thought.
He should, shouldn't he? Stefan Kung will be the team captain of Switzerland, and he wouldn't enjoy seeing him win. He's the nearly man of time trialling. It was cruel, wasn't it?
Oh, really cruel.
Really
so
cruel. But anyway, he turned his attentions to the Spring Classics this year, and he had some really solid results, didn't he?
Yeah, no wins again, but he was right up there in a lot of them. Jonathan Narvaez of Ecuador will like the look of this course, you'd have thought, whilst other names to look out for include Almeida of Portugal, Geniet of Luxembourg, Stybar of the Czech Republic, and Lutsenko of Kazakhstan.
And last, but far, far, far from least, Peter Sagan, 3-time world champion, which he did in consecutive years, remember. His recent form has not been great. He didn't finish either the GP of Quebec or Montreal. And whilst there have been flashes of the old Sagan this year, he seems to be a shadow of his former self.
It's a real shame, isn't it?
Yeah.
Another World Champ Sagan show would be something very special. Even if, like you've pointed out, Si, it's probably not going to happen. Right, let's move on to the women's race now. And whilst the Dutch haven't won the men's championships for 37 years, the women have won 4 times out of the last 5.
Yeah, and they will start as favourites this time around too. Annemiek van Vleuten is one of the many standout names on their roster, but she'll be hoping that her relatively lacklustre performance in the time trial was just a blip and not an indication of how she's going to feel on Saturday.
No, I think it must have been the travel or something. I can't imagine she'll be looking like that on Saturday's road race. She'll be there and she'll be attacking. Marianne Vos will be looking to win her first road championship since 2013, and after her bitter disappointment of that silver medal last year, she'll be really determined to go one better.
Yeah, she'd not raced since the Tour of Scandinavia, where she won 4 of the 6 stages, but I'd hazard a guess that's because she's really targeting and focusing fully on the Worlds. Like, if she does it, it'd be her 4th World Road title and her 249th career win.
Yeah, on the road. plenty more in other disciplines. And she first won the Road World title in 2006, 16 years ago. I'd love to see Vos win. Demi Vollering is another Dutch rider who's more than capable of winning the race on her day, whilst Van Anrooy, Marcus, Van Dijk and Mackay will be trying desperately to give the squad the cohesion it seemed to very much lack last year at the Olympics and the World Championships.
Too many chefs in the kitchen for that one.
Felt like that, didn't it?
The woman who beat Vos last year in Belgium was Elisa Balsamo, who definitely hasn't felt a curse of that rainbow jersey. She's won 9 races this year, 6 of them at World Tour level, and the last of which was her last day of racing before heading to Australia. So that was the final stage of the Ceratizit Challenge by La Vuelta.
Yeah, Italy's also got a great team. Elisa Balsamo, as you mentioned, could do very well. Elisa Longo Borghini, she's really consistent and solid at the biggest one-day races in the world, of course, won Paris-Roubaix, while Silvia Persico has come on leaps and bounds this year. The home nation too has a really strong team. Grace Brown is no stranger to success in one-day races, and her silver medal in the time trial last Sunday showed she's on great form at the moment.
Yeah, Amanda Spratt as well brings a lot of experience to the team, whilst Alexandra Manley, Brodie Chapman and Georgia Baker could also be right up there on this course. I think they've got every reason to feel confident going into Saturday's race.
Yeah, a bit of pressure, home World Championships, isn't it? But they have got a really strong, solid team. Leader of the Belgian squad will be Lotte Kopecky. She seemed to really turn a corner, I thought, at the start of this year, going from almost winning big races to winning some of the biggest. So she's got Strade Bianca and then the Tour of Flanders in the spring. Now, she's not won a race since she won the Belgian National Championships, and that was in June, but she has been consistently right up there.
Yeah, Emma Norsgaard, Cecily Uttrup-Ludwig will make for a formidable pairing in the Danish team. Uttrup-Ludwig has also been winning with more consistency this year, and she's going to love the climbs on this course.
Oh, she will. They're totally suited to her. Liana Lippert will lead the German squad, Mavi Garcia Spain, Ashley Mormon-Pasio South Africa, whilst Elise Chabi and Marlon Ruser will lead the Swiss team.
Yeah, and watch out for Pfeiffer Georgie and Anna Henderson in the British squad as well. Both very good one-day racers, whilst Kristen Faulkner could be an outside bet for the Rainbow Bands for the USA. She has been really strong this year, hasn't she?
She has, yes. Meanwhile, like the men's, the French squad looks to be really strong on the women's side too. Although unlike the men's, they had to fly to Australia in economy, cattle class, rather than business class, as the men did, which quite rightly kicked up a bit of a social media storm. Juliette Labousse, Maria Lene and Evita Music are all young riders full of promise, and a number of them with wins as well. Although the person I would most like to see win this World Championships is Arlena Sierra of Cuba. I mean, ever since I read her backstory a few years ago, I've been a huge fan of Arlena Sierra. She spends most of her time now working for Annemiek van Vleuten at Movistar, but she's also got a great pedigree herself in the big one-day races.
She does. Right then, that is the course. Those are the favourites. It's time to make our predictions. Who are you going for, Dan?
Well, I'm going for 2 picks that are both head and heart. I think they can win, and I want them to win. So on the women's side, Lotte Kopecky. I just love her style of racing, and I'd like to see the Dutch beaten again by somebody. And then converse to that, I would like to see the Dutch win on the men's side with Mathieu van der Poel.
Okay, nice. Right, well, whilst I'm not a fan of countries dominating, I would love to see Marianne Vos take the win. So head and heart there. She's the one Dutch rider that is allowed to win on the women's side of things. That'd be brilliant, as we've said. Now, on the men's side of things, I'd like to see Van Aert take it, actually. I would say Van der Poel, but I'm not allowed because you've already picked him. But no, I think Van Aert would be great.
I think I'd prefer to see Evenepoel take it than Van Aert. I don't know why.
Would you?
Yeah. Because if he does it, he'd go from about 30, 40 kilometres out, and that would be an epic win at the World Championships in modern years, wouldn't it?
That'd be cool. The other person I wouldn't mind, Pogačar.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, we just like all the big stars, basically.
Yeah. I love a big hitter winning a bike race.
Yeah.
You know, none of this underdog stuff, just the big guns, please.
Right, well, maybe some of our fellow GCN presenters disagree, and we'll go with an underdog. We'll find out now.
My prediction for the 2022 World Championships in Australia. For the men's elite, I'm going to go for Wout van Aert. He is looking on top form, and he's missed out on the time trial to concentrate on the road race. And then Annemiek van Vleuten for the elite women's. I mean, you can't bet against her.
So my prediction for the women's race, I'm going to go Elisa Balsamo. I think she's got a fast finish, Italian national champ. And then for the men's event, I'm going to go I'm going to go Van der Poel. Yeah, I think he's been a little bit under the radar of late, and I feel like he's going to come back strong at the end of the season. And, well, I just think he can do it. Come on, don't let me down.
Hello from GCN of Deutsch here. After Tobias Voss winning the TT Championships, we have some underdog predictions, Toby.
Yeah, that was a real surprise, and my prediction for the men's race is Andrea Bajoli after his performance in Montreal.
Professional. I'm going with Luke Plapp because, yeah, I like him.
Last thing is the women's race. I still be Italian and Silvia Persico.
Okay, so we have an Italian pick from Toby, and mine is fully Australia. Aussie, Aussie, Aussie. I'm going with Grace Brown. Greetings from Germany.
But
Bye-bye.
fingers crossed for Liane Lippert.
Always.
I expect a small bunch sprint, so my favorite for this kind of finish is Matthew van der Poel.
My World Championships men's road race prediction is Tadej Pogačar. Because of this year, the World Championships in Australia is super tough circuit. And a lot of hill climbing, like almost 4,000 meter up, and also a lot of technical section out there, and of course, a lot of kilometers. In the end, might be a small bunch sprint, which is have to be a good sprinter. And Tadej was racing in Canada a few weeks ago, and he won against Wout van Aert, which is he has now great form and great sprint as well. And that's why I choose Tadej Pogačar. Hopefully enjoy to watch World Championships in Australia, and see you guys soon. Bye!
As ever, we would love to hear your favourites for the races this weekend. You can let us know in the comment section just down below.
It could be a bit of a lottery picking a name out, couldn't it? But one thing we can be sure of, Australia is going to be a fantastic host to the World Championships. It's a nation that's missed out on international bike racing for the last 2.5 years due to COVID, so the appetite for it will be higher than ever.
It will. So make sure you tune in for some of that atmosphere and brilliant racing if you can.
And
where
the
you
Magpies as well.
Oh yes,
Tune
the
in for the
dreaded
Magpies.
Well, we might have a few dropouts from the favourites we've mentioned before we even get to the start, mightn't we, with the dreaded Magpies?
My words, yeah.
Balsamo was attacked the other day.
Poor
Anyway,
guy.
hope you've enjoyed the preview show. Let us know your favourites in the comment section down below, and we will see you soon.